So the Supreme Court issued a pretty crazy ruling today, in a 5-4 razor-thin ruling that basically struck down Andrew Cuomo's restrictions when it came to religious gatherings in New York. So it's pretty bizarre, pretty crazy. Um, what's even crazier about this specific, more than this specific ruling, is likely that it's indicative of a trend to come, which is that we are fucked, pretty much. Um, so it says the Supreme Court late Wednesday night barred restrictions on religious services in New York that Governor Cuomo had imposed to combat the coronavirus. The vote was 5-4, with Chief Justice John Roberts and the court's 3 liberal members in dissent. The order was the first in which the court's new member, Justice Amy Coney Barrett, played a decisive role. So basically, it's about the First Amendment, protection of free exercise of religion. And it says, in a concurring opinion, Justice Neil Gorsuch said Mr. Cuomo had treated secular activities more favorably than religious ones. Quote, "It is past time, to make plain that, while the pandemic poses many grave challenges, there is no world in which the Constitution tolerates color-coded executive edicts that reopen liquor stores and bike shops, but shutter churches, synagogues, and mosques." So that statement is completely full of a bunch of lies. When it comes to, first of all, the comparisons between something like I don't know if by a liquor store he means like a liquor store that you go into, you buy your liquor and leave within a couple minutes, or if he's talking about bars. Bars are not open pretty much anywhere, especially not, I don't think, in New York. And same thing with the bike shop. I don't know why you'd bring up a bike shop, bizarre. And also anything that's open right now has maximum occupancy rules. And I'm basing this off here in California. I'm assuming there's the same thing in New York, and New York is probably worse in terms of how strict they are when it comes to maximum capacity. So all of these places are either shut down or they are, also given maximum occupancy restrictions, amongst other things. But also, when it comes to something like a liquor store, the amount of people congregating in a liquor store where you just go in, it's like, a place you buy your liquor and leave, is pretty small, especially compared to a church or a religious gathering place where a lot of people come together in really, really close quarters. It's totally different. But even if we were to say that, these places are also subject to regulations, heavy regulations at that. So basically, there were religious groups who were saying that Cuomo was, discriminating against them, essentially is what it's saying. It says the restrictions are strict. In shifting red zones where the coronavirus risk is highest, no more than 10 people may attend religious services. That seems sensible. In slightly less dangerous orange zones, which are also fluid, attendance is capped at 25. This applies even to churches that can seat more than 1,000 people. So that all makes a lot of sense. So it's not even complete shuttering of churches. It's literally just saying no more than 10 people can attend a religious service. That makes a lot of sense. That makes a lot of sense. So basically, ACB was the person who voted against it, of course. So they're claiming that, it's unduly restrictive, I guess is what Roberts is saying. But Roberts voted against. It says, in a second dissent, Justice Sonia Sotomayor, joined by Justice Elena Kagan, said Mr. Cuomo's restrictions were sensible. Quote, "Free religious exercise is one of our most treasured and jealously guarded constitutional rights. States may not discriminate against religious institutions, even when faced with a crisis as deadly as this one. But those principles are not at stake today. The Constitution does not forbid states from responding to public health crises through regulations that treat religious institutions equally or more favorably than comparable secular institutions, particularly when these regulations save lives. Because New York's COVID-19 restrictions do just that, I respectfully dissent." So, it's going to be a big fight with this. To me, this really has nothing to do with, equal treatment of religious people. I actually think this is religious supremacy at this point, because you have gatherings, all these areas being shut down, right? All these, huge maximum occupancy restrictions, which brings it down to extremely low numbers, which all makes sense. But then religious groups and people are supposed to get these exemptions for having these stupid large gatherings. No. And so the way it should work is religious gatherings should be kept down to 10 people at a time. and especially in the really dangerous zones. And just like everywhere else, man, everywhere else has really low maximum occupancy. One of the lawyers was claiming that, it takes longer in a supermarket than an hour long mass, when most people don't spend an hour at the supermarket. Um, it's complete bogus. It's going to cost people's lives, unfortunately. But this is what's to come with Amy Coney Barrett now on the Supreme Court. And it's pretty scary to see, man. But this is, in my opinion, religious supremacy. It's no longer religious equality. It's just supremacy. If you are somebody who believes in religion, you are supreme under the law. There's no equal protection when it comes to that. If you're having restrictions on gatherings now, you have to be like, okay, well, can we apply those to religious people? Why not? Equality, right, is what it's supposed to be. But it's a pretty gross misuse of the First Amendment, I would say, and the free exercise of religion. It's nothing even close to that. Not applicable here, but pretty disappointing to see for sure. And this has been an issue since the beginning of the coronavirus, where you'd have restrictions placed on secular activities, but once you're placing it on religious ones, well, no, now you have extra. You're given extra protections, which that's not equality.